Today, December 14, marks the day that the Electoral College is scheduled to vote for the president and vice president. Today, we'll examine how Communist China interfered in the 2020 election to neutralize President Trump's re-election, whom the CCP perceive as a threat to their goals for communist expansion and the development of a new world order. You're watching Anarchy in America with Christian Gomez. And joining us today again is Trevor Loudon, anti-communist filmmaker and researcher and author. Trevor, thank you for joining us again.
Look, it's always a pleasure, Christian. Thanks for having me on.
So you recently scripted a video for the Committee on the Present Danger China entitled Seeding the Vote. And in that video, Trevor, you discuss various front groups affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP. Could you walk us through how these groups influenced and interfered in the 2020 election?
In San Francisco for many years, there's been a group called the Chinese Progressive Association. They've been going for 40 years now. They were run by Maoist communists, still run by Maoist communists, and they're essentially a support group for the Communist Party of China in San Francisco. And they really have dominated San Francisco politics for many years because they can command a very big voting bloc, and it's almost impossible to get elected to anything in San Francisco without their blessing. Well, last year, this group set up a front group called Seed the Vote. Now, Seed the Vote, which is run by Liberation Road, the pro-Chinese communist, LeftRoots, another pro-Chinese communist group. They have a network of about 10 organizations around the United States, big voter registration organizations, and they specifically targeted 7 swing states with the goal of defeating President Trump. Their logo actually says defeat President Trump.
The Seed the Vote logo?
Yeah, the Seed the Vote logo. So this organization, which is run by pro-Chinese American communists, a front group for the Chinese Progressive Association, which is a front group for the Communist Party of China, claims credit for flipping 6 states in the election for Biden. 6 states that Trump won in 2016 now went to Biden, and they claim credit for this.
Now, you mentioned LeftRoots. Now, in that video that you scripted, you show a clip of Alex Tom, the senior advisor for the Chinese Progressive Association and a communist comrade member of the LeftRoots coordinating committee. Anyway, in that video, you have him saying...
And we have a relationship with the Chinese embassy. Like, we actually have I've had to have various conversations with them about our positioning.
What exactly are LeftRoots? What's their relationship with the CCP and their involvement with the Seed the Vote?
The main pro-Chinese communist group in the country is Liberation Road. They're the people who started Black Lives Matter. They used to be called Freedom Road Socialist Organization, but they changed their name in 2019. Well, they have a spin-off group. It sort of overlaps with Liberation Road. It's almost a front group for Liberation Road. It's called LeftRoots. And many leaders of LeftRoots, including Alex Tom, have been to China and claim to have relationships with Chinese Communist Party officials. And as I said, many of the leaders of the Chinese Progressive Association are also members of LeftRoots, including Alex Tom, who was the chief executive officer until recently of that organization, and the current chairman of the board, a woman called Pam Tao Li. So there's a very clear connection between the Chinese Communist Party, the CPA, Chinese Progressive Association, LeftRoots, and Seed the Vote. They are all overlapping organizations effectively.
Yeah, another one of the LeftRoots activists that you identify is Adam Gold. And in an interview with RealNews.com, a video interview, Gold said,
"We were really determined to defeat Trump. We were focusing on 7 states this year, and it looks like 6 of those Went to Biden.
So which are the groups, the front groups of Seed the Vote and LeftRoots that were involved in flipping these states from Republican to Democrat? What groups were they?
Well, okay, in Arizona, you have Lucha. And in Georgia, you have the New Georgia Project. In Wisconsin, it was Block. In Michigan, it was Detroit Action and We the People Michigan. In Pennsylvania, it was Pennsylvania Stands Up. All those key swing states. LeftRoots and Seed the Vote claim they flipped them for Biden.
Are these groups, do they have ties to other communist leaders and communist organizations?
Laura Masumi, the head of one of the top people in Detroit Action, is the daughter of Don Masumi, a long-time LeftRoots member, former member of the League of Revolutionary Struggle, a long-time Maoist. Angela Lang, who's in Bloc, leader of Bloc, has connections to Liberation Road. The Lucha people, many of them trained with New Virginia Majority, a Liberation Road front group based out of Virginia. So you'll find all of these groups have communist connections. All of them are linked into Liberation Road, to some degree with Democratic Socialists of America, but mainly Liberation Road and LeftRoots. The same goes for Pennsylvania Stands Up, which openly claims credit for flipping Pennsylvania for Biden.
You also mentioned the New Georgia Project as one of those groups, and in the video you show a photograph of John Bachtell, who's the chairman of the Communist Party USA, right there in Georgia, dressed in a New Georgia Project t-shirt, getting the vote out. Now, if you go to New Georgia Project's website, they say that they're a non-partisan group, but here they are helping to elect Democrats, and the leader of the Communist Party USA is working with them. Why don't the American people know about this communist penetration? Why is the media silent about this, do you think, Trevor?
Well, because the American media, by and large, is pro-left. The American media would never, well, look, you could have a hammer and sickle tattooed on your forehead, and they wouldn't call you a communist. It is verboten in the American left-wing media to talk about the communist influence on the ground in this country, or Communist Party of China influence, which is extensive in this country. The American media is generally to the far left and will cover for these people, which is why we're in the middle of a communist revolution right now, and 95% of the American public has no idea of the fact.
Yeah, and speaking of the communist revolution, various of the groups that we know of course, are Antifa and Black Lives Matter. And earlier in this interview, you mentioned that Black Lives Matter was created by Liberation Road. In fact, one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter and the founder of Black Labs is Alicia Garza. In an interview with Seed the Vote, she was asked by Max Elbaum, one of these Maoist activists, which you identify in your video. He asked her,
Alicia, what do you think's at stake in November election?
Everything. Like everything is at stake. And I'm really not being facetious about that. Yeah. To be real, what's at stake is whether or not a new world order is able to take root and grow.
Well, that was on their YouTube channel for Seed the Vote back on June 11, 2020. So the development of a new world order is what she says is at stake. What does that mean for the United States? If Alicia Garza, BLM, Seed the Vote, and all these groups affiliated with the CCP have their way and do end up installing Joe Biden as president and so forth.
But how can this be true? Because the media tells us it's all about black social justice for black people. It's all about ending racism. Look, Alicia Garza is a long-time Maoist. She's a member of LeftRoots. Black Lives Matter is run by the same people that run Seed the Vote, the Chinese Progressive Association and Liberation Road and LeftRoots. Black Lives Matter is a Chinese operation. So New World Order, well, we all know that the New World Order means a sort of globalist, centralized world government. And I believe the model for that and the enforcement arm of that program is the Communist Party of China. So they are the ones who have the muscle and the economic power and the military might to enforce that New World Order if America can be taken out of the picture. So what Alicia Garza is saying, yes, we want a New World Order. We want a world centralized socialist system. That to do that, we must end an independent America. We must bring America into the socialist world program. So Biden wins, America goes into the socialist world program. Trump wins, it doesn't. It remains independent, and the New World Order is held off. So what she's basically saying is, we have a choice between world communism and freedom. And this election, which they are working to tilt in Biden's favor, will decide which way the world goes. So I don't see how you can get more explicit than that. She is working for world communism. She's working for the New World Order. She is working for the Chinese program within America.
All of these groups, Trevor, you would say that they are in fact neutralizing America, an independent America, by flipping all the Republican and conservative-leaning states to the Democrats, which then these CCP front groups, they push even further to the left. You know, Democrats like Joe Manchin or any pro-life Democrat that there might be, those Democrats are going to be pushed aside in favor of your AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and the squad-type Democrats, right? Moving the party more in a Bernie Sanders, socialist, even communist direction, correct?
Look, absolutely. See, Seed the Vote and their affiliated groups like New Florida Majority, New Virginia Majority, are all working in the Chinese playbook. And they openly state their goal is to destroy the Republican Party in the South. They've already flipped Virginia from red to blue. They've now flipped Georgia. They've flipped Arizona. They've almost got North Carolina. They've almost got Florida, and not far away in Texas, and making big progress in Tennessee. They understand that if they can flip a couple more states, or permanently entrench Georgia and Arizona in the blue camp, the Democrats will rule and the Republican Party will be destroyed. The Democrats are now a communist party. So the way to entrench their power is to use the voting power of minorities in the southern states to flip those states into the Democratic camp, which destroys the GOP as a nationwide force. There is no real opposition to their socialist plan from that point onwards. We are this far away from going over the edge.
So before we do go over that edge, which isn't really far at all, as you pointed out, what are some actions that the American people and maybe even Congress can take or should take to expose and stop this CCP interference in our country's elections?
Well, look, what the CCP is doing is illegal. It is illegal for any foreign power to be working in any way in American elections. Like New Virginia Majority, for instance, which takes open credit for flipping Virginia, uses maps, very sophisticated GIS maps, computer generated, that identify every precinct in the state, who lives there, what ethnicity they are, etc., so they can micro-target those voters. Well, those maps are generated by one of their comrades, a Liberation Road comrade, an American, who works out of the geography department. Steve McClure, who works out of the geography department of Wuhan University, China. He is using Chinese computers, being paid a Chinese salary to interfere in American elections. We need to raise awareness of this because I believe what is happening there is completely illegal. And if that can be exposed and people can be put on trial, Americans will understand the extensive communist Chinese network that is stealing elections under our noses. We got to, I hope people will circulate my video as widely as possible to send it to Republicans, especially in those key states, because the Virginia Republican Party has no idea of why they lost their state. The Georgia GOP has no idea of how they lost their state. Same with Arizona. Well, we better reverse those states pretty darn quickly and make sure that Florida and North Carolina don't fall next, and then Texas, because when we get to that stage, we're lost. Okay. So we have to expose the illegal activities and circulate my video as much as possible to raise awareness of what's going on.
Well, thank you so much, Trevor, for joining us and for taking this time for this interview. Thank you so much, and God bless.
You're very welcome, Christian. Good to see you, and we'll catch up soon.
You can find Trevor Loudon's video, Seeding the Vote, on presentdangerchina.org and on trevorloudon.com. In addition to watching and sharing Trevor's video, we at the John Birch Society encourage you to go to jbs.org, click on Act Now, and go to our federal legislative alert to support CCP Transnational Crime Group bill in order to designate the Chinese Communist Party as a transnational organized crime group. Until next week, take care and God bless.